Okay, so we have for ourselves several exercises that we want to try our hands on to help us improve our skills in AutoCAD and AutoCAD mechanical in general for this semester. We'll start with maybe a simple page setup, and then we'll go to the exercises, starting from figure 1 through to 12. There are timestamps in the video description, so you can skip to any part of the video that you are interested in. So you can use the timestamps for that purpose. Skip to whichever portion or whichever figure that you are interested in practicing on. So on the start page, I prefer to use a particular template. So you can just click in here and then go with ACAD ISO.dwt. If you don't have that, you can go to browse templates and then ACAD ISO, and we open that up, and then the only page setup that or settings that I want to do would be limits. So I type in limits and then 0 tab 0 enter, then 420 tab 297 and then enter. This is basically an A3 paper size. And those of you who have watched the videos in the quick start playlist, you would understand why we have to do limits. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to the quick start video tutorials and then look at the video on limits, and you will understand why we have to do this. Okay, so now I type in Z, that is shortcut for zoom, hit enter, and then I type in A, that is shortcut for all, and hit enter. Now I'm ready to start my drawings. So let's say start with figure 1. So I'll just zoom in real time. I want to zoom on this figure. Okay, so we have a square of side 120, right? 120 here, and then these divisions here are basically just 10 millimeters. So let's go back to my drawing. Obviously, I can use a rectangle for that purpose. So I'll just pick a rectangle too. And for this purpose, I would prefer to click anywhere on the screen. I'll not mind where I'm beginning from. So I'll just click, let's say, this point, and then I have 120, tab 120, and that is my square. Now I would have to draw a line which goes like that. So I click on line, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to track this point to position the line. So object snap has to be on, and then object snap tracking also has to be on. Again, if you've watched the videos on that, you'd see how to use those. Okay, so I'll just track from this point, move in that direction and put in 10 and hit enter on the keyboard. Then I'm only zooming back and forth, so you can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom. And then I need this line to be vertical, so you make sure it's vertical. If you want to be absolutely sure, you can just click on ortho mode here to keep the line vertical. All right, and then I click to put that in. Okay, so that is what I have. Now how do I get the rest? There are several methods I can use. Okay, so I can use offset in the modify. I can use offset here in the modify group. So you click on offset to ask you for the distance of the offset. That distance is 10. and then it will ask you to select the object to offset. This is the object, so I click on it, and it will ask me for the side to offset it to. I want to offset it to the right side, so I'll just click anywhere on the right side, and then I'll do that again. So click, move to my right and click, select object, move to my right and click, select the object, move to my right and click. Right, so I can do this multiple times until I have the figure. Okay, and then I hit escape. So that gives me this. Now what I have to do, or what I do next, is I need to get the horizontal lines in place. So I can basically use the same method. There are several approaches that you can use. So say for one, I can select all of this, and then within move I can go to drop this down, and then I have copy and then rotate. So I can click on copy and then rotate. Now once I click on copy and then rotate, it will ask me for a base point. So I'll click this midpoint, and then it will ask me for the angle of rotation, right? And the angle of rotation here has to be 270, right? So right, all of this is moving around. Now this is how I want to position it, right? So that is 270 degrees. It's either 270 degrees, or you can just, once you align it in the direction that you want, which is this direction, so I just align it in this direction and then click, and that is my solution. Then hit escape. So that then solves this first one for me. That's all there is to it. So that's figure one. Now we can move to the second figure. Again, this is a selection window. I want to move this a little bit to the top, and how to use this selection window and everything is also part of the quick start videos that we already have. So you can look at the videos on the window selection to know how to use this. Okay, so let's move on to the second one. So for figure two, it looks a lot like figure one with some modifications made. So let's look at what we can do about that. So it's a square with the same, proportions as this. So 120 and then divisions of 10. All right. So this is 10, meaning this will be twice of that. So that is 20, and on and on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. So CO is shortcut for copy. So I type in CO and hit enter, and then I click in the middle as my base point, and then click again, hit escape, and that gives me something to begin with for figure two. So what I can do here is use the trim tool. So when you come here within the modifier group, I have trim. So I'll click on trim, and then I can now click here to trim, click there, right? Okay, so my figure is now kind of taking shape. And now for the next one, still click on trim. So for the next column, I'll rather delete or trim this part, trim that part. Right. Okay, so that's how that looks like. So I just hit escape after trimming. Now I can keep on and do same for the rest, and then I would be fine. Alternatively, I can select all of this, and I'm using a crossing window. Can select all of this and hit delete on my keyboard to delete them. And now I'll use a window. Again, if you don't understand how these windows are used, just go to the videos in the quick start and then look at how they are used. So I'll select all of this, and then I can just copy them around. So copy. Now we ask for the base point. I'll click here as my base point, and then what distance am I moving them by? That should be 20. So 20, and then if I want to use the same, copy is still on. So starting from, I've moved from here to that point, that's 20. So the next one is going to be 40 from your original position. So that's 40, or 40 will snap up to the midpoint. So I'll just click, and then I'll continue from there. Now I'm snapping from the midpoint. So that's 20, and then snapping from this current position, 20 again, right? And then there will be a last one. So I'll just click this point. All right. So basically, that is how figure 2 looks like. Now, if you look here, within here, you see that I have duplicates of this. Now, you can just click or select them by clicking on them, and then you can delete them to have uh, a nicer outlook of your work or for your work. Now, we can go to the third one. If you look at the third one, which is figure 3, see that figure 3 is basically figure 2, which has been rotated by 90 degrees. So look at it carefully and you'd see that. So what I'm going to do is take advantage of the capabilities of AutoCAD Mechanical. Okay, so I'll select all of this by using a window, and then I'll go to move, click on this arrow, and then I'll select this last option here, copy, move, then rotate. So I'll copy this. I'll be asked for a base point. I'll look for the midpoint of the figure, use that as my base point. So I'll click on this and then move to my right, and then click here to position it. And now I'm being asked to rotate this, right? So I would click. You see, as I move around, you can see the rotation, right? So I think the angle that I need should be angle 0. So I'll just click that, right? Then hit escape, and this is figure 3. So if you go in here and you look at them, you'd see that I now have figure 3 by going through that approach. Okay, so we're done with figure 3. Now let's look at figure 4. And again, I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, so if you look at figure 4, what you see is that we have an octagon which is drawn using the polygonal method, and the distance that we are giving is across flats. Again, if you look at our video on polygons, you'd see how to use the across flats method to draw polygons. So we have the octagon in place with the distance across flat being 120, and then these divisional lines that we have here are at a spacing of 10 millimeters, right? And the lines are parallel. So the ones on the left, leaning to the left, are parallel to this part of the polygon. And the one on the right are parallel to this side of the polygon. Right. So let's see how we can solve this. So I go back, and then within draw, right? So you click on draw. We have polygons in here, so you click on polygon, and then the number of sides, we have an octagon, so you put in 8, and then we have to specify the center. I want to track this point, so track this point, and then maybe I'll just click this to be my center. Do I want inscribed or circumscribed? For a polygon that is drawn across flats, here in AutoCAD we have to use the circumscribed method. So I'll click on circumscribed, and then you see that the distance that I have to enter here is half of the distance across flats. If you look at the orange line that is proceeding from the center of the polygon to the side, so the total distance given across flats was 120. So half of that is going to be 60. So that is that. Now if I were to click on measure here and come close, you'd see that I'm being told that the distance across flats is 120. So that is on point. Again, if you don't understand how we use a polygon to get this, you can look at the video tutorial on polygons. That should help to get you up to speed. Okay, so I have my octagon in place. What I want to do next is draw the divisional lines, 10 millimeters, starting from the one leaning on the left. So to do that, I want to draw a constructional line to help me with this. Now within layers here, let's click within this box and then select AM_CL. That is AutoCAD mechanical underscore construction line. So select this layer and then go to line. Now I'll draw a construction line from here to there, and the color of the construction line is going to be red. Hit escape, and now I want to change the layer back to 0, and then I can click on line. So go back to line, click on line, and now I want to track from this point. So I put my cursor here, and as I move along, I'll put in 10, right? And then like that. Now for us, we know that the angle, the angle from here to that side there, right? This angle, let me explain that. So this internal angle here, for us, for an octagon, we know that this internal angle here is 135, right? The interior angle there is 135. So if I click on line, if I track from here and I put in 10, now if you look at the angle that I have to put in, if you look at the angle that I have to put in with respect to the horizontal, that angle is going to be um, 135 minus 90. That is going to be 45 degrees. So I put in an angle of 45 degrees and just hit, just click. Okay, so I'll click on trim and then trim this part off. And then within trim, click on this arrow and then you have extend here. Click on extend and then bring your cursor close to this edge of the line. Click and that will extend it to the other side of the octagon. Again, there is more information on this if you go to the tutorials in the quick start. So I'll hit escape and then I can use the offset method, right? Just as we did, I can use the offset method to get the remainder. Now a simpler way to do it would be for me to use array. So within array, click on this drop down and what we want is path array. So click on path array and then you'll be asked to select objects. Click on this object, hit enter. You'll be asked to select path. Click on this to select the path and this will open up for you. So within items, you click here on items. So click on this box and this part here will become editable. Between will become editable. Now within between, let's put in 10, which is 10, right? And now you see that you have two items, right? You have two items with a spacing of what? Spacing of 10. So we have an octagon with across the distance across flat is 120. So it means that we can have about 11 items in there. So if I put in 11 here, you see that I have all the items that I am looking for. So I can now click close, right? But these ones obviously they need to be extended to touch, right? Now the problem is if I go to extend and I attempt to extend this, you see that AutoCAD does not allow me to extend array items. So what I would do is I'll use the explode tool here. So click on explode and then come and select all of these or just click on them and hit enter. Now they will be exploded. When I click on this, you see that they are now individual items. So what I can do then is go back to extend, click on extend, and I'll use if I click on this part, it will just extend it. Click on that part. Now another method to use will be to draw a crossing window to select all of them like that, or just draw a fence, or just like that. So what I did was just hold down your left mouse button, hold down the left mouse button, and then drag along the lines. Now you have that. So it's as simple as that. Then we can hit escape. Now if we go back here, you see that we have the lines we have just drawn, which have been mirrored to the other side. So what I can do is I can now come in here. Okay, so I now will repeat the exact same process, for the on the other side. So I'll just click on line and then I'll just track from this point. So from there, track and then 10. And now the angle I need to put in, if you look at what AutoCAD is giving me, from where it's measuring from, the angle has to be 135. So all I'm going to do is hit tab on my keyboard so that it switches to the angle input box, and then I'll put in 135 and hit enter. Okay, and then I'll use trim. Shortcut for trim is TR. So hit TR and then enter and then click here. And I have shortcut for extend is EX. So EX, enter, and then I will extend this all the way there like that. So that is that. And then I can offset all of this, but instead of offsetting, I think we can use the array tool whichever one we prefer. So in this case, let me just offset. So just click on shortcut for offset is OF. So offset and then hit enter. Then the distance that I want to offset by is 10 to 10 and then enter. And I'll select this, offset it. Make sure you click on the side that you want the object to be offsetted to. So when I click on this object, I have to offset it upwards. But if you look at the object snap, you see that the object snap has picked some green point which is opposite where I want to offset to. So if I click, AutoCAD will actually put the new line uh, in the direction where I have the object snap, which is opposite to what I want. So let's try. So I click, you see that the line goes below, and that is where the grip was. So let me try again. So I click on this. Right now, this time around, I'll get what I want. So if the object snap is interfering and not helping you get what you want, you can always go here and then turn it off. Okay, so I just click to turn mine off. So I'll now click to position it, select it again. Same distance, so just position. And I have to do this several times. So this is the one of the disadvantages that come along with maybe using offset for a purpose like this. So we could simply have used array and we would have been fine. Okay, so that is that. Now there are other methods that you could use. Okay, so I'll just hit escape and then click on this unwanted line here and delete it. And now I have to use extend, so I'll just hit extend. So ES on my keyboard, enter, and then I can now, click here to extend, right? And then click again to extend it. Now the better way to do this will be for me to come to my command line here and then click on boundary. So I'll just click on boundary and then it will ask me to select objects. That is, what is my boundary? This is the boundary that I want. So I'll click on it and hit enter. Now when I come here to extend, the line will be extended to the boundary that I have selected. So now I can click on that, and it extends in one go. Alternatively, I can just hold down the left mouse button and then draw or drag around like that, and that will extend all of them. And then I'll come to the other side, hold down the left mouse button and then drag along. Okay, and that gives me what I'm looking for. So if we go back to drawing one, right, this would be my solution. If we look at figure 5, it looks quite similar to figure 4. So maybe similar construction approaches. Okay, so again, we're going to use the across flat method of polygon construction. It's only that in this case, what we have is a hexagon with some part of it trimmed off, if you can see that. Okay, so let's go back, and then mind you, we have 120 here and then 10 there. Okay, so let's go back to our work. Again, we go to draw and then use polygons. This time the number of sides I have 6 for a hexagon. I'm just going to now turn on my object snap and track the midpoint of this, maybe somewhere there. And I still have to use the circumscribed method, right? So if you look at it, This is how we want it to be positioned. Let me put on the ortho mode. So this is the positioning that I want, and half of the distance across flat is 60. So I'll put in 60 and hit enter like that. And now for this, the divisional lines has to be parallel to this side of the curve, just as we did in the previous one. So I'm going to enlist the help of the constructional lines. So within layers, click on the drop down and select AMCL, AutoCAD Mechanical Constructional Line. Select that. Then we go to line. Make sure your object snap is on, and then snap to the midpoint of this side and the midpoint of that side. And that helps you to get um, this constructional line in place. And then I'll switch from AMCL to 0, go back to line, and then track this point, put in 10, and now I would have to maybe turn off that. Now the angle of this line is going to be 60 degrees, and that's what is important. So I just hit tab on my keyboard and then put in 60. If you perform your calculations, you'd see that 60 is what we want. Hit escape and then TR for trim. Trim this part, and trim and extend work together. So if trim is on and you hold down the shift key on your keyboard, so I'm holding down shift key. If I bring my cursor here, it will tend to extend. Okay, so what I can do next will be for me to either offset or use the array to get the remainder. So let me use offset. So O for offset, offset distance, I'll put in 10, and then I can click here and there. So click to select, and then there, click, move to your right, click, move to your right, click, move to your right. So that is about that. And then I can extend. So ES shortcut for extend. And then I'll just draw a fence, hold down the left mouse button and then draw a fence. So hold down the left mouse button and drag. And that is what I'm looking for. So hit escape. Now, if you go back to look at the exercise we're working on, figure 5. Okay, so I have divisions, this ones here. So that is basically another line. Okay, so we click on line, and then from we are going to track from this point. So we track from here to there, putting 10, and then the angle, hit tab to get to the angle, and then putting 120. So that is what we're working with. So we can now trim this, and then I can just go to click on this drop down and then click on this bulb around AMCL, and AMCL will disappear. Okay, so maybe I can array this. So AR, I'll select the object and hit enter. And then I want to use path, so click on path. So to select the path, I'll click on this. This is the path that I want. So click on path, and then we come in here for between. I'll use 10. And then for items, let me click on here. Then for items, would have about 11. Okay, like that. So that is what I want. And then I can click on explode here and select this and hit enter to explode them. And I can now go to trim, TR, and drag around the bottom like this. Okay, now I can click here and there and here, to trim that. Okay, so what I have is a half. What I need to do next is mirror this entire thing. So I will select all of this, and then I'll go to mirror, click on mirror. I'll be asked for a mirror line, and I'll click. I need to turn my object snap back on, so click on object snap. So I'll click here and there, and then click on no, and that is how I mirror that. Now TR for trim, and I can click here and there, and that is about how I get my solution for the fifth one. Now let's take a look at the sixth one, figure 6. So I still have the square. I still have the square of side, which is 120. And I have a smaller one in there, of side of 60. And you'd have, from this corner going to the midpoint to the corner, same thing here, and then same thing there, same thing there. So it's quite easy. So we come here and we can use this, or you can drop down and go to, I don't know, let's use a different method. So we can use any of the center methods. So click on center corner, and then I'll track this point, click there, and I would have 60 and 60 and enter. So that's about the size of it. And now I'll go to line. So all I have is from this vertex to that midpoint back to the vertex. Hit escape, and then I can do the same, from here to there, and then back there, and line again. So from this midpoint to that midpoint, and then line from this point to that point, and then the same thing in the opposite direction. So from this midpoint, or from that corner to the midpoint and back there. All right, so this basically is what I have for the bigger one. Now the smaller one in the middle is just a mirror, or it's just a scaled down version of the bigger one, right? So this one here is only a scaled down version of the bigger one. So okay, so this is the larger version. Now I'll select everything and then click on copy. There's a drop down in there, use copy and not power copy. So click on copy. Then for the base point, you can just click here and then move it to this side and then click. All right, and then I have a copy of it. So I'll now select everything and go to scale, click on scale. And then I'll be asked for a base point. So for the base point, I just want to use the center. So I'll track both points to get the center, right? And then the scale factor that I want to use is 0.5, right? So put in 0.5, hit enter. Now I'll select all of this, and then I'll move it. So M is shortcut for move. So M, enter, and then I want to move it by the midpoint. So I'll just track this point here and track that point. Click and move it, and then I'll now track this point and track that point and place it there. And that is how I get the set figure.